everyone, Lu here. If you're new here, this is part of a series where I'm reviewing all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Up until GX for the sake of sharing my nostalgia for this series with all of you. Today we're taking a look at the infamous Season 0, or the Toei Animation adaptation of Yu-Gi-Oh! You know, growing up, Season 0 was treated as something of a playground legend among the kids who grew up with Yu-Gi-Oh! And only one of the kids in that group had completely unrestricted internet access. It was always like, did you know there's a lost season of Yu-Gi-Oh! With guns and punching? And like everyone thought that kid was full of shit, myself included, as a kid who was taught to be more careful online. You know, DisneyChannel.com with your parents' permission type of shit. It wasn't until I started my teens that I actually humored it and found out about Season 0, which was created by Toei Animation in April 1998. It surprised me because one, the early Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga was incredibly dark and violent, and if you know anything about Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball fans, Toei Animation in the 90s had a tendency to tone down the violence and darkness in these adaptations. This also contained quite the cast for an adaptation of what was a very new manga at the time, which includes voice acting legend Megumi Ogata as Yugi and Yami Yugi, Hikaru Midorikawa as Seto Kaiba, and Toshiyuki Morikawa as Jonochi, or Joey as he's called in the US, and Yukana as the anime-only character Miho no Saka. Which, yes, by the way, this is an adaptation of the early Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga before it was switched to be about duel monsters only. Now, I did read the early version of the manga. Actually, it was the version I read as a kid from my local library, except I read it the wrong way because I didn't know how to read manga back then, so I was literally reading it backwards, which is kind of funny. Though I have been slowly reading the Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga, I don't remember much of the beginning anymore and I'm only remembering the duel monsters part, so whoops. Many take this adaptation as wish fulfillment that the anime adaptation by Studio Gallop had adapted the darker moments of the manga, and I still do wish there was a remake today that did adapt those darker moments, which many find the pacing to be kinda all over the place, but let's take a look at it for ourselves. Yugimoto is a 14-ish-year-old kid who's way too damn short for his age. Huge mood if I'm being honest. He's bullied frequently by Jonochi and Honda, a delinquent and beautification member, which I think means he's in some sort of beauty club, with the only nice person to him being Anzu Masaki, who he's crushing on really hard. Being a loner, Yugi spends his free time at school assembling a puzzle he got from his grandpa 7 years ago that he views as a sacred treasure and was told it would grant his most desired wish. Included in this group for the anime only, probably to round out Anzu since she's the only girl in the group, and main cast is Miho. Honda has a stupid crush on her, and I actually really like Miho, even though she's just there to be cute and an airhead who's boy crazy. Also, her lavender hair is really pretty to me, even if it clashes badly with that gosh awful girl's uniform in the anime. Anyway, even more to a threat to a Jonochi and Honda is Yugioh, the public moral member, and I think it's supposed to be like student council. I admit I wasn't in the mood to research Japanese schools for this one to learn about it. If Yugioh looks familiar, he does appear in 5Ds as an officer, and in the English dub he goes by Trudge, which confused many people because Yugioh should be in his 50s in 5Ds, but he looks more like he's in his 30s. Could just be JoJo's aging, but that's my 2 cents on it. As Yugi is giving exposition to Anzu about the puzzle box, holding a secret and being super cool so you can't mention too much about it, turns out Jonochi stole the final piece of the puzzle and threw it out the window to be a dick. Yugi has no idea about this as he heads home, where Yugioh insists Yugi is a target of bullying, but his kind heart really can't see it that way. Back home, Yugi invites Anzu over to the game shop where Yugi's grandpa in the early version of the manga was something of a pervert. Yugi was too, since his wish in the original manga at the time was to see Anzu's underwear, but I just view this all as pilot shenanigans, and if you know anything about pilots, then you know almost everything gets retconned. Anyway, so Yugi's grandpa tells them about what the puzzle box actually says, and it basically says that whoever solves it shall be granted power, knowledge, and eternal darkness, which Yugi's innocent baby heart doesn't see as a big deal, and that it actually means it'll grant his wish. At school the next day, Yugioh beat the shit out of Jonochi and Honda, where he claims it's because he's his bodyguard, and Yugi keeps begging that this is going way too far, but Yugioh continues to beat the shit out of them. Yugi steps in to save them while calling them his friends, which shows how kind Yugi is, where even though he's threatened badly, he'll still stick up for someone. Yugioh says that as his bodyguard, Yugi has to pay him 200,000 yen, which according to the translation I read is about $1,800 today. Mind you, Yugi is a 14-year-old kid from an average middle-class family. There's no way that kid is gonna have 200,000 yen laying around. At home, Yugi is trying to think about what to do while building the puzzle again, and he actually manages to complete it, except he's missing one piece. Jonochi, feeling guilty about bullying Yugi, fishes out the last piece of the puzzle for Yugi while he just so happens to arrive back at school to see if maybe he dropped the last piece in class or something. Then comes the running theme for this early part of the Yu-Gi-Oh manga and anime, where Yugi gets his shit kicked in by the antagonist of the episode. Luckily, Jonochi and Honda show up just in time as they get their asses beat again, but this time to protect Yugi. While Yugi wishes with the final piece of the puzzle for friends who would be by his side forever and never betray him. Granting this wish in the puzzle, it activates who we now know as Yami Yugi, who possesses Yugi under extreme emotional and physical duress in this early part of the manga before they knew the other existed. Yami Yugi challenges Yugioh to a game, and the winner gets the quote money, aka a shadow game, in which the original main point of the Yu-Gi-Oh manga comes in. You see, Kazuki Takahashi loved all sorts of games, from tabletop games to video games. He loved making up new games to play. He made Yu-Gi-Oh as a unique way to show these games, and hoped that some of them would catch on as actual games, which one did in the form of Duel Monsters. However, in the context of Yu-Gi-Oh, these were basically Saw-esque torture games that would result in the loser dying a horrible, painful death, or going completely insane. I guess when the puzzles still had working batteries, it was kind of like a mind break instead of whatever he did to Seto Kaiba in the first season, which like cleared his mind of the Angie or something. With Yugioh losing and going insane and the day is saved, Yugi making all these new friends, thus begins the plot of the early Yu-Gi-Oh manga. I'm not gonna explain every episode in detail, just because a lot of it feels very episodic. An example being Jonochi and Yugi trying to find where Anzu goes after school, or she works at a burger restaurant by faking her age because she wants to save up for a dance school in New York. Then the burger shop gets robbed and Yami Yugi saves the day and hints that Anzu has fallen in love with Yami Yugi. Seto Kaiba does appear in this anime though, but a lot earlier than in the manga, where I think it took something like 20 chapters for him to appear. His hair is also green for some reason. He acts a lot nicer in the beginning to fool Yugi and his friends, but I feel like it does kind of play similarly to the first episode, just like pieces of it anyway. The big difference is that instead of Yugi's grandpa getting his shit kicked in by holograms in the beginning, Kaiba steals it directly from Yugi after he brought it to school to show everyone in class. Which, if it isn't obvious enough, Kaiba's dragon fetish is even deeper when the Blue Eyes White Dragon is the only card he understands having a sentimental attachment to. Jonochi and Honda try to get it back for Yugi, but Jonochi gets his shit kicked in by Kaiba's henchmen. Like I said, grown men beating up a bunch of teenagers is completely normal for Season 0. Then begins something akin to the game we saw in Season 1, only with real monsters coming to life instead of Kaiba's holograms, where he's a lot more afraid and less skeptic. Instead of Yami Yugi winning their first duel together, it's a draw where Kaiba just loses it. Or develops a crush, whichever side you think Kaiba's on. Next we do see Shadi, and he feels somehow more prominent here than in the entirety of the Studio Gallop anime. Still, an exposition ghost though. We do see him use the Millennium Scales, which is super cool because the anime completely chose to forego what Shadi can do with the scales in a shadow game, which is basically a lie detector test that punishes you, which I think is pretty cool. Like I said, Shadi is your exposition ghost, so he basically drops lore hints that Yami Yugi's room looks like a pharaoh's tomb, and their interaction is largely the same as the one in Season 1. A fond episode for me though is the Tamagotchi one, because I have memories of reading the volume that chapter is in as a kid, and I don't know why it stuck with me for so many years. Very cute though. We also get Ryo's introduction, but that's for later. Next massive plot is the Death Tea arc, in which Kaiba does what he did in season 1, where he challenges Yugi's grandpa to a duel and basically scared the shit out of an old man with VR and hologram technology. Death Tea is basically an escape room on steroids, with each room being deadly as shit, designed by either Mokuba or Kaiba. Which, if you didn't know, Mokuba was evil here too. Even Mokuba challenges Yugi on one of the floors, which it's been a while, but I remember as a kid, the ending to that duel really stuck with me as a kid, because Mokuba gets mind broken and stuck in like an egg capsule. I'm guessing this could explain why he ended up nicer. I'm not gonna pretend to fully understand faulty Egyptian batteries. That's when Yugi and Kaiba truly faced off against each other, where Yugi summons Exodia and fully beats Kaiba, leaving him mentally destroyed and brain dead because he's Seto Kaiba and he can't handle defeat. Also, he might have had a bisexual awakening, but I'm letting you guys figure that one out. In the grand finale, Yamibakura fully possesses Ryo again and traps them all in a D&D board game, which in season 1 was just their favorite cards. But here they're turned into game pieces that Yamibakura and Yamiyuki have to use to win, where Yugi discovers there's another person inside of him. Which, fun fact, Zork was foreshadowed all the way here as Yamibakura's game piece. It's also funny that the grand finale to Yu-Gi-Oh! Between Yamibakura and Yamiyugi was another D&D board game. Be glad that Yugi's not Sora from Kingdom Hearts, where his body is just a gosh damn soul hotel at this point. This time, it's Ryo finding the personal strength to shut Yamibakura away for now, where he pops up again around Battle City in the manga. I do like that Ryo has a lot more character development than in the anime and has a really adorable hobby of sculpting and painting miniatures. As someone who also loves painting miniature things, we stan Ryo Bakura here. The season just ends with foreshadowing that everything could come kick their shit again in season 2, but it never happened because this anime didn't do so well from what I can tell. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is very weird. It honestly didn't catch on or pick up until Duel Monsters blew up, where Kazuki Takahashi changed the course and renamed the manga to Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, where a large majority of Season 0's characterization we see here was either retconned or thrown under the rug. That said, I did like Season 0 as a sort of proof of concept, and its early establishing of the gang was actually going to school and being friends. That said, I am sad Miho was forever locked to this adaptation. Sure, Miho did absolutely fucking nothing, but I thought she was just so adorable. Like, go queen, give us fuck all, because she's just really cute. I kinda wish Kazuki Takahashi did remember her and did like a throwaway gag that like she moved or something in Dark Side of Dimensions. Though the episodic adventures do feel like it halts the pace to a grinding halt a lot of the time. It's one of those old anime adaptation things where it wants to be a Saturday morning cartoon and a story with a continuously moving plot at the same time. Kinda like the first season of Steven Universe, if that makes sense. Some of the games were also hard to understand too, but that's just me. I gotta say though, the cast of Season 0 would have fit right at home in Kakegurui. I know Atem would have loved the shit out of that guillotine game. Overall, I did like the manga or Season 0's storyline. I just prefer Duel Monsters part going forward. So this is technically a little better than the worst episodes by Studio Gallop, but man, is that early CGI we see sometimes so unbelievably ugly and outdated. Like, I'd say it's charming, but at worst, with the quality it has, I'm reminded of those 90s educational tapes that lasted until the 2000s. It definitely does a really good job at adapting Kazuki Takahashi's early art style for Yu-Gi-Oh!, which did evolve quite a lot as the series went on. The only major thing that bugs me is the coloring and color palette choice in general, which is absolute ass. We had color references for Kaiba, the school uniforms, and other characters, so why the fuck is everyone in these putrid neon colors? The main colors I noticed throughout this anime were fluorescent greens, purples, and teals, which was just kinda ugly and really head-scratching when Kazuki Takahashi's art style in the early manga had very natural color tones. Which I know, saying natural and Yu-Gi-Oh! In the same sentence doesn't make sense, but I mean, the colors weren't so neon. I just think it's really weird. The only one I think fits is Miho. Maybe because she's so cute and because her hair is really pretty as a lavender color, so it doesn't stick out as much as like a dark purple or neon green the way Kaiba's hair does. We also do see Serenity, or Shizuka as she's called in the original, and she has bright purple hair, which again, super confusing to me, but maybe Toei thought a really bright color palette would grab kids' attention. The female school uniform is also hideous, like orange and bright green. Who the hell picked out these colors and thought they were pleasing to look at? I swear after a while the whole coloring just fucks with my eyes. Like, you know how everything looks kind of funny when you look at bright green or bright red for too long? Yeah, it was that effect. Though to play devil's advocate, I don't know if the color palette was actually this bad, or if it's solely due to poor preservation, the way Sailor Moon's rosy color palette in early DVD releases was due to poor preservation. The Toei anime has never had any modern release or aired on TV again, or acknowledgement from Toei due to copyright issues, so it is very possible that this anime just looked better on first release and home media copies, or whatever means people attained this anime with fucked up visuals. Not the first time this has happened, you know. Not going over characters because the only one I feel I haven't talked about before is Miho, and I like Miho a lot, as you could tell from this video. Overall, I really like Season 0, but not enough where I'm gonna rewatch it. Like, overall, I really like Season 0, but not enough where I'm gonna watch it until I'm 90 like I do with the Studio Gallop anime. I appreciate what it did, and it paved the way for the Duel Monsters anime. Not that it paved the way for a better adaptation, but it walked so the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters anime could blow the fuck up around the world, and promoted Takahashi's work is what I appreciate. You can actually watch Season 0 right here on YouTube for free, which is just wild to me. I'm so used to Toei Animation being absolute hell when it comes to copyright, hence why this video didn't have too many visuals, because I've done Sailor Moon videos in the past and got my ass beat by Toei more times than Yugi did throughout all of Season 0, which, trust me, is saying a lot. Next, I'll be reviewing Yu-Gi-Oh's first movie. Nope, not Pyramid of Light, but it's a movie made for Season 0. After that, we'll finally be tackling Dark Side of Dimensions and a few video games before moving on to Yu-Gi-Oh's first successor, GX. What do you guys think of Season 0? Do you love it? Do you hate it? As always, let me know down below. Hey guys, thanks for watching! If you liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you're new. If any of you would like to help support my channel in any possible way, my Ko-fi page is down below in the description, along with all of my social media. For any subscribers, new or old, who'd like to help with video ideas, or maybe just want to talk about anime or something, I have a fan server linked down below. See you next time!